Hi, and welcome to day 2 of the 7-day free course on PowerPoint design. What is it that attracts our eyes to the screen, to look at the PowerPoint presentations? Well, today we're going to talk about the Gestalt theories of visual communication. What is it that draws our eyes to the screen and to the slide and makes an impression that we remember the content of the message? Here's just a few ideas.
Here's a great test on how our vision helps us make perceptions. As you look at this image here, what do you see first? Do you see the old hag or do you see the beautiful young woman? Make that choice and know what you're focusing on first. The theory of continuation has to deal with the way our eyes move as we're looking at a slide. Normally in Western culture, we read from left to right. We get the end of the line, we do a carriage return, we go back to the beginning and keep reading. So we read in a Z pattern. Sometimes in the slides that we make in PowerPoint, we redirect our eyes and the way that we look at the visual information. We can change the way we interpret our reading. In this next example, you can see that our eyes are first drawn to the girl. The girl who is in this position is now directing our eyes to the first text block that we need to see on the slide. When we've read that, we finish up reading the information on the slide. The girl has guided the way our eyes move. Closure is about seeing what's not there. In this case, it's just like if we sing Happy Birthday, we sing all the way through the song and we get to the last line and we don't say the person's name, our brain puts in that information. It's the same thing here. Look at the panda. There's no black line separating the white of the panda from the page, but our eye sees that. The same thing with the logo. We see just what we want to see. Our eyes provide the closure. Here's another great example of how our eyes provide the closure. Guys, look at that car. The whole car may not be there, but we see that whole Lamborghini. Our eyes provide the closure. Our eyes are automatically drawn to and attracted to things that are similar or dissimilar. If you look at this particular slide here, you can see that the little shapes of the people are similar until you get to the last one. And we have the eagle surrounded by triangles. And when they're put together, we think about something as a group, but they're different objects. Look at this slide. Can you find the one that is different from all the rest? Our eyes automatically go to find that dissimilarity that's there. Figure and ground. In other words, what's in front and what's in back. If you take a look at that first image, you actually see two different things, but the first thing you see is the tree. You see the squiggle lines in the background, and then you process that information and discover that that's a river. So the tree is in front of the river. Now we move over to the next image. We have a shade, a window shade. But on the shade in front of it, we actually have the silhouette of a human face. So we have something in front and we have something in back. In other words, figure and ground. Foreground, background. And here we have a perfect real live example of figure and ground. We have the background all out of focus where our area of focus is what's in the foreground. The sandals. Perfect example. Proximity deals with the closeness or furtherness of the elements that are grouped together. If you have things grouped close together, we perceive them as a group. If they're spread out, we don't perceive them as a group, we perceive them as individual elements. It's the same thing with a set of a dining room. When we're actually sitting down to eat the service, we have all the plates, we have the silverware, we have the cups, all grouped together. If they were spread out all over the table, we wouldn't know what belonged to us. This almost goes back to the concept of closure where we have implied space. We don't see that entire wine bottle, but we know it's there because it's on the outside of the slide. Our eyes complete the information. Things to remember? We have several. Every element on a PowerPoint slide can be manipulated. It can be massaged. We can make that message. We have to design the macro and the micro. As we design our slide and start placing elements, we have to determine what's important, because our audience members should never have to wonder where they need to look to get the information that they need. Our job as designers is to make communication as simple as possible. There should be no questions, no doubts, and no distractions. Signal versus noise ratio. On a PowerPoint slide, the signal is what we want to have as the message. The noise is everything that distracts us from receiving the message. So we need to have a high signal and a low noise. The higher the noise, the more difficult for the audience to understand the message. To improve the SNR, we need to remove all the clutter that's on a slide. Clutter has no place when trying to determine a message. Here's a perfect example of too much noise versus signal. The color schemes in here we have seen time and time again in PowerPoint presentations. An absolute distractor for the message. And if color wasn't bad enough, look at the textured backgrounds. Here, it interferes with the text that appears on the slide, again, making the message difficult to read. Now, as the final test, what do you see? One vase or two women? Only you know for sure.
Hi, I hope you learned something from today's session on Gestalt theories. Tomorrow, day 3 session, we're going to be talking about principles of design. Look forward to seeing you then.